Before we go back to New York and get more of the stock reaction financial angle from John Dawson, I want to hit pause here and bring in Congresswoman Diana DeGette. She's a Democrat from Colorado. She saw the damage done to the Gulf Coast firsthand earlier this month. She's going to be in that hearing room putting her own questions to Tony Hayward shortly. She's joining us now from just outside the hearing room. Congresswoman, what is the question that you want answered today?
Well, there are a number of questions. One of them is there were 5 key areas where BP cut corners to try to get this well drilled. The one I'm going to be zeroing in on with my questions is why did they allow Halliburton to put the cement casing in so sloppily, and why didn't they test that casing? They knew that casing was likely to fail, and that was one of the causes of the catastrophic explosion that's caused all of these millions of gallons of oil to leak into the Gulf.
Congresswoman, we've been monitoring some of the questions and opening statements that have already been put forward from some of your fellow committee members. I want to specifically ask you about a comment that was made in terms of characterizing that $20 billion escrow fund that was announced yesterday by BP at the White House. It has been, quote unquote, characterized by the congressman from Texas as a shakedown. What do you think of that?
I was frankly appalled at Congressman Barton's characterization of this $20 billion compensation fund, because we were in the Gulf last week. We talked to the business people and the shrimpers and fishermen and the people who live along the coast who are losing their livelihoods. This is not some act of nature. This was gross negligence on the part of BP. And frankly, BP has said under oath in front of our committee that they will pay all of the losses. So the establishment of this fund, which BP agreed to do, is only a first payment towards reimbursing the people in the Gulf for the terrible losses that they're suffering. I can't believe that Congressman Barton would say this.
And you say a first payment here, you expect and you'd be looking for more than that $20 billion and more than the $100 million that was being set aside right now?
Well, BP has said whatever it costs to reimburse these victims and to restore the Gulf, they will pay it because it was their gross negligence that caused this catastrophe. So BP agreed to do it, and I can't understand why anybody would think that it was a poor idea. You know, some of these victims from other oil spills in the past, it's taken decades to reimburse them, and the residents of the Gulf, the people who live there, the small fishermen, they don't have decades of lost revenue to be hiring lawyers and suing people.
Congresswoman, before we run out of time, I want to ask you more broadly about energy policy moving forward. I know in looking at new legislation, you have raised concerns in the past about fracking, about the method of extracting energy from beneath the ground using the method known within the industry as fracking. Are you still as concerned? Is that something now that you would change in terms of the safety regulations that you would ask for?
Well, one thing we've learned through this BP investigation is that the oil and gas industry has really gotten used to having very minimal regulations. The bill that I'm proposing really is directed at onshore drilling of hydraulic fracturing, which is a method where they inject liquid into the ground and then they get the resource. I do not
and you stepped back from that in the month of May, though. So are you now going to move forward with that same request?
I haven't stepped back from it at all. I think we need to know what these oil and gas companies are putting in the ground. I think we need to have good regulation. Look, I think we need to have domestic production of oil and gas, but we need to make sure it's done in a responsible environmental way.